Hello and welcome back to Football League World TV. We've got the midweek review looking back on the best of the League One and League Two action. I've got Ned and Toby joining me. Ned, how are you this morning?
Yeah, well, good. Thanks, mate. It's quite nice, as we were just saying before we came on there, to really be able to focus on some League One and League Two games specifically this week. So sort of looking forward to getting my teeth into them.
Yeah, absolutely. Some good action across the two divisions. Toby, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. As Ned says, some really good games that we've seen over the course of the past couple of evenings. So it's going to be really good to sort of run the rule over a few of them. Looking forward to this one.
Absolutely. A reminder to anyone joining us to like and subscribe to Football League World TV on YouTube. And if you are watching, get yourselves in the comments. We want to hear from you. Right. League One up first. We're gonna go back to Tuesday night and Crewe's 2-0 victory over Lincoln City. Mikael Mandron with a brace from the penalty spot for a very young Crewe side, actually turning over Lincoln. Ned, this was a good victory, wasn't it, for Crewe?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you say, a very young side. I think Crewe have they found themselves a bit of a punching bag this season, in the sense that it was a difficult summer window for them, and the departures of the likes of Kirk, Lancashire, Dale, among others, it didn't look like they had a whole lot to work with, really. And I think Mandron's recent form is a huge boost for them, and he's proving a godsend. And there really is nothing better for a team, scrabbling around trying to secure survival, really, than a confident goal scorer. And I think we saw that last night, and that's a huge win for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 2 wins in 4 now in League One, and of course they're off the bottom of the table. And Ned, I'll just stick with you here because you mentioned Mandron's goals. He's got 5 now for the season. How vital do you think he is to sort of keeping Crewe's hopes of survival alive this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's massive, really. You mentioned really how young a side it was last night, and a player like Mikael Mandron maybe doesn't have seasons with huge amounts of goals in League One, but we've seen him score in the EFL a fair bit. So a player like that who knows where the goal is, and as I said before, when there's a scrap down the bottom of the table and it looks like Crewe is certainly up for one of them and in for one of them this season, that there really is nothing more valuable, in my eyes anyway, than a confident goal scorer. If Mandron can become that'd be absolutely huge.
Yeah, of course, it was 2 penalties on Tuesday night, but they were so, clinically taken. There were 2 excellent finishes, same side of the goal, but he stepped up with such confidence. As for Lincoln, starting to flirt with the bottom 4 a little bit now in League One. They're only 3 points clear of the bottom 4. Toby, do you think there's a genuine chance that we could see Michael Appleton's side sort of fighting for the lives in League One this season?
Yeah, I mean it's a possibility. I mean, you look at the sort of form they're in, then yes, you'd have to say that is relegation for me. There's no denying that. And I think sort of you look at that game on Tuesday night as it was against Crewe, that's one that, with the greatest respect, given the position that Crewe were in, Lincoln surely had to see as an opportunity to get 3 points that maybe would have put a bit of breathing space between themselves and the relegation zone, and they didn't get that. And now, obviously, that just heaps the pressure on after a cup defeat at the weekend to a League Two side in Hartlepool. So the pressure was on there as well. If you're not picking up results against lower league sides in the cup, you're always sort of, there's a bit of an expectation maybe to bounce back quickly in the league. They didn't get that. Obviously, I think they lost TJ Ioma to a red card on Tuesday night. So he's now facing a suspension. They've got that to deal with as well. So it's a tricky situation that Lincoln find themselves in. I mean, it's quite a turnaround from the playoff final just a few months ago, but it just shows how quickly things can change in football. And yeah, it could get into something of a challenging situation for Lincoln over the next few months.
Yeah, without getting too sidetracked here, Toby, do you feel that January is going to be a big month for Appleton?
Yeah, definitely. Like we say, and any side in that sort of position has to recruit if they're going to get out of it. I think you look back to the summer. Obviously, there was sort of a bit of an expectation late on deadline day. I think they were in for Morgan Whittaker at Swansea. Then that fell through because Swansea didn't get a replacement in for him. So that sort of meant that Lincoln have almost had to play this first half of the season an attacker short. So I think, as Ned was saying about Crewe and Mandron there, having a goal scorer can be absolutely vital for a team in that position, and it could well be the case that Crewe have to revisit. Lincoln have to either revisit that deal for Whittaker or for someone else in January to help bring in the goals that will get them out of that position. I think you look at Whittaker; he's not had his chance for Swansea in the league, but you go back to say his hat-trick against another good League One side in Plymouth in the League Cup back at the start of this season. He could be someone who potentially has that goal-scoring ability to help pull them away from the drop zone if they can get a player such as him in January.
Absolutely. Elsewhere on Tuesday, Fleetwood Town 3, Bolton Wanderers 0. A lot went on here. Jed Gardner opening the scoring before Ricardo Santos was sent off for Bolton late on. Harrison Biggins then scored a brace after Santos' red card to secure the points for Fleetwood. We're going to start with Fleetwood. First win for Stephen Craney in interim charge of the Cod Army. We know Fleetwood can score goals. You know, they've shown that consistently in League One this season, despite their struggles, but it's keeping them out at the other end. Ned, is the clean sheet almost the most important thing here for Fleetwood?
Yeah, I think it has to be, really. It's obviously a really positive start and great to get some sort of momentum under Stephen Craney. But I think you've got to go back to midway through October for the last time Fleetwood kept a clean sheet, and you know, they're one of the highest. They've conceded almost more goals than anyone else, I think, in League One. I think only one team is conceded more than them. So I think that's such a positive step forward. Obviously, that this, I'm sure we'll talk about Bolton and stuff like that. But the sending off of Ricardo Santos and an early goal means, you know, necessarily it wasn't exactly a comprehensive, massive victory, but as you say, I think a really solid start, and we'll talk. We talked. I'm sure we'll talk about, you know, Graham Lee a little bit later, but it's similar in the sense of, you know, getting that early momentum, which is really important for Craney.
Yeah, absolutely. As for Bolton, you know, it's a bit of a bad day at the office, this really, with the early goal, the red card, the two late goals. You know, make the scoreline, you know, look more convincing than it maybe was. You know, Toby, are we putting this down to a bad day at the office, or is there something more serious, you know, underlying at Bolton at the minute?
I get the feeling there's something quite a bit serious going on there at the minute. I mean, you look at their run of results, it's now just 2 wins in their last 10 in the league for Bolton, and those 2 wins are against the bottom 2 teams in Crewe and Doncaster at home as well. So, I mean, Bolton are going to need to start picking up more results than that if they're going to, you know, keep themselves away from the relegation zone this season. I think also you consider sort of almost maybe what's going on behind the scenes. Obviously, we had the departure of Anthony Sarcevic, the captain, to Stockport, a team in non-League 2 divisions below Bolton, just the other month. And obviously, there's the situation around sort of Everett's insistence on not recalling Politic, which doesn't, from his loan at Port Vale, something which doesn't seem to have been met with a great deal of satisfaction from the Bolton fans. So, I mean, on the pitch, results aren't coming anywhere near what they should be for Bolton, and it seems as though off it as well, there's a great deal of frustration around the club at the minute. And, you know, you can combine them two together, and given they're only a few points and places above the League One relegation zone, this season could start to get a bit ugly for Bolton if they don't sort of find a happy solution sooner rather than later.
Absolutely, work to be done for Ian Evatt to just sort of find a medium ground again. Moving on to Wednesday, talk about Wigan's 2-1 victory over Shrewsbury. Late goal from Teller Asgard in the 92nd minute, so really, really late goal. Toby, we were briefly talking off air. You were at the game last night. Asgard's goal was a really tidy finish, and you sort of mentioned that he turned the game in Wigan's favour, really.
Yeah, I thought he did. I mean, he came on sort of late on in the first half, replacing Jordan Cousins. It was actually sort of an injury that seems to have forced a change, but inadvertently, it did sort of work out really well for Wigan. I mean, they'd started brilliantly with Tendai Dirikwa's goal after just a couple of minutes. It was a really well-worked move, but after that, they just sort of, as they seem to do at home in midweek at the minute, they just really sat back. They allowed Shrewsbury onto them, and they were under all sorts of pressure. And I think perhaps the fact that it was Jordan Cousins and Tom Naylor who were sort of in those two central midfield roles for Wigan last night, as good a players as they are, and they are good players, they don't have the sort of attacking instincts of an Asgard. And so when Asgard came on, the sort of drive that he provided to help get Wigan back up the pitch sort of really lifted the pressure that Shrewsbury had been putting on them up until the point when he came on, and you saw that shine through in the second half. You know, it was much different to the majority of the first, in that it was Wigan putting much of the pressure on for almost all of the second 45, and eventually that's all with a really good finish from Asgard, and that's a big result for Wigan. Obviously, it was far from a good performance from them, but sometimes you need to sort of win them games if you're going to get promoted. And I think as well, it's sort of a bit of a monkey off the back, because of the 4 league games Wigan have lost this season, 3 of them have, as I say, been at home in midweek. So to manage to grind a win out of one of those sorts of matches will be a big relief for them and a big confidence boost going forward.
Yeah, I'll stick with you here, Toby. I only saw the highlights of the game, and my sort of view of it was the chances and where they went and the shots on goal that Wigan deserved the victory. Was that really the case?
Maybe just about, as I say, in terms of in the second half, you certainly sort of for much of it felt like a goal was going to come, and if it was going to come, it would be Wigan in the second half. Although eventually it did take a bit of a moment of magic from Asgard, almost a Star is Born moment for the young midfielder. But yeah, on the basis of the second half, you'd say that winner was going to come for Wigan, although Shrewsbury might argue they could have, if they'd taken the chances or made the most of the pressure they've been putting on Wigan in the first half, then perhaps they could have been the side leading at half-time, and that might have led to a different sort of game in the second 45. But no, Wigan will definitely take that as a well-earned win.
Ned, we'll discuss the wider picture a little bit now. Wigan are second in the table. They've got games in hand. You know, firstly, a word on how important it was to get that late winner last night, and are results like this the sign of a side that's, you know, almost destined to go on and win promotion?
Well, I think in the Sir Alex Ferguson era at Man United, they used to call it the mark of champions, didn't they? You know, picking up results in games where you didn't necessarily deserve it. I mean, as Toby says, you know, Wigan perhaps on the back of that second half sort of push deserved the game. But I think Steve Cotterill is going to come out of that absolutely livid. His side conceded goals in the second and 92nd minute, and then probably, you know, played 90 minutes of fairly decent football in the middle of that. But you know, this Shrewsbury side, you only have to look at the fact they took 4 points from 2 games against Sunderland and Charlton, both teams that would probably consider themselves promotion hopefuls, or definitely, in fact. And that shows just how difficult they've been to play in recent weeks. And the situation with Wigan, as you said, they've climbed back into that top 2. We know they've got the sort of firepower to blow teams away at times. So to be able to back that up by sort of grinding out these results is absolutely massive. And as you say, you know, fantastic goals from up-and-coming young players late on in games is exactly the sort of thing that Latics fans will want to see, and exactly the sort of thing that does make you think, hold on, is this a Wigan team that it's written that they're going to be securing promotion at the end of the season?
Absolutely. 41 points now for Wigan, and things are looking really good. Right, we're going to discuss League Two next. First game on the agenda was between 2 promotion hopefuls in Exeter and Northampton. A 2-1 win for Northampton at St James's Park. Sam Hoskins' free kick causing havoc and resulting in the winning goal there. We'll start with Exeter. They were fuming about the award of the free kick. It's 2 defeats in 3 now for the Grecians, and a long unbeaten run at St James's Park has come to an end, and suddenly they're slipping sort of behind the top 3 in 4th. Ned, couldn't have really gone much worse for Exeter, could it, on Tuesday night?
A difficult one, certainly, for the Grecians to take, particularly if you consider, you know, how the game went. You know, unfortunate to concede that sort of deflected opener, first of all, the controversy surrounding the free kick, and then a sort of late miss. I'm not entirely sure who it was at the back post, where even the other fans on that side of the goal thought it was in. It was one of those where sort of a Sterling-esque into the side of the net ghost goal. But yeah, I mean, they need to bounce back and get a grip on results, really, don't they? I mean, they haven't zipped too far away yet, and that's certainly a positive. I'm sure we'll come on to speak about how important, you know, Northampton putting a bit of distance between them and the 4th place is. But I think this is a dangerous time for Exeter. As you say, a poor run of form and a busy festive period. Suddenly you stumble a few more times and you find yourself you've really slipped back in that promotion race, and a team that have perhaps entered this busy period in better form with a few players in great form have leapfrogged you, and suddenly you're wondering how you've got to where you are. So I think a really disappointing one, certainly for Exeter, as we said, in the manner of the goals, but so important that they use that as sort of motivation to build on and bounce back as soon as possible.
Yeah, it'd been a long unbeaten run for Exeter at St James's Park, something that they'd really, pride themselves on. So this was a big win for Northampton, really, going to Exeter and winning. And now there's a 4-point gap to fourth in the table, which gives them a little bit of a cushion heading into a busy period. How crucial is that 4-point gap, do you think, Toby?
Yeah, I think it's really important for Northampton, especially when you sort of look at the fixtures they've got coming up. I mean, it's a bit of a tough one at the weekend. A trip to Harrogate, obviously, they took a bit of a beating by Forest Green, but they're still well in the playoff hunt. So there's another chance there, but to sort of put a bit of a gap between them. But then after that, they've got a bit of an opportunity, really, Northampton, with the games coming up. They've got Barrow, who was sort of down the wrong end of the table to an extent. Walsall seem to be very inconsistent this season. And then Scunthorpe, who obviously rooted to the foot of the table, can't seem to get a win for any money at the minute. So there's a big, to have that gap now with those sorts of fixtures coming up where they will no doubt be eyeing another good haul of points. It could really put them into a strong position going into the second half of the season. I mean, obviously they're in form at the minute. That was a third win in a row for unbeaten in the league. Perhaps the fact that, unlike Exeter, they didn't have the FA Cup the weekend, and obviously Exeter especially had the replay of the original first round game against Bradford in the midweek before that. So that perhaps worked in Northampton's favour, but you've still got to take advantage of those things, and Northampton managed to do so at the weekend. And with that run of fixtures they've got coming up now, they've got a really good chance to sort of stake a claim for an automatic promotion place here.
Absolutely a great opportunity for Northampton. Elsewhere on Tuesday, Leyton Orient 4, Swindon 1. Aaron Drinan and Harry Smith with a brace apiece here. This was a statement win for Orient, and they're up back into the playoff places at the minute. Only Forest Green Rovers have scored more goals than Orient this season in League Two. Ned, how good are they going forward?
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look at, particularly at home. I think that's 3 times in their last 4 games at home that they've scored 4 times. A couple of sort of late pushes as well in terms of goals, wearing teams down, battling and then scoring big goals. I was one that questioned early in the season that Archibald, Smith, Kirogi sort of those options. I wasn't fully convinced about. Kenny Jackett. It made me look rather foolish, potentially not for the first time, but yeah, I mean, I think those forwards, they give them something that's so positive in that, they do have, I sort of mentioned about Wigan, they do have the sort of the weapons there to blow teams away as we saw against Swindon. And I think for a promotion side, that's just such an amazing thing to have. And I think, as you said, statement win for them, and not just for them to climb up into the playoff chasing sides, but hurting a direct rival in Swindon as well.
Yeah, as for Swindon, Ben Garner's side had 62% of the ball, and in his own words, with a better side between both boxes. Toby, it's not really much good, is it, if you're good between both boxes, but ship 4 goals and only score 1, is it?
Yeah, no, exactly. The penalty area is really where a game is largely going to be decided. So that's where you've got to be your most ruthless or your most solid, depending on what area of the pitch we're talking about. And I think I sort of spoke about this on the preview show on Tuesday, being an opportunity for Swindon, what with them going into the midweek games being 4th level on points with 3rd, only sort of outside the automatic promotion places on goal difference. And so with those 2 second and third playing each other, as we've touched on with Exeter and Northampton, it could have been a really big opportunity that for Swindon to sort of lift themselves back into the automatic promotion places. And obviously there's still a long way to go in the season, but psychologically, being one of those top 3 sides, the confidence boost it would have given them could have been significant as well. I mean, they have still got games in hand, so they could still met that count at some point, but it's an opportunity missed to do that. And as we're saying, possession, yes, it can give you the control in games, but if you're not going to make the most of it, then there's very little point in having it, and Swindon didn't here. So they've got to work on that. Otherwise, it could be a bit of a frustrating time for them.
Moving over to Wednesday, Hartlepool 2, Rochdale 1. Mark Cullen and Mark Shelton striking in a comeback win for Hartlepool. It's been a dream start for Graham Lee. His side's progressed in the FA Cup against League One opposition, and now a victory to back to winning ways in League Two as well for Pools. Ned, been impressed with Graham Lee's start to life with Hartlepool?
It's hard not to be, really. I think they looked at a side in real, not necessarily in trouble for the sense of their season, but in trouble in the sense of that slump following Dave Shadonor's exit. And Lee's appointment seems to really have brought the positivity back to the club. I think you'd say, on the basis of things, perhaps Rochdale were unlucky to come away with nothing. They had the better chances for me, and I think they benefited really from two poor bits of defense. Hartlepool benefited from two rather poor bits of defending. But Graham Lee's not going to care about that, and neither will the Hartlepool fans. I mean, it was always going to be, we're always going to judge Graham Lee really on games further down the line and performances further down the line once he's really been able to sort of shape that squad and have an impact. But I think it's definitely so important to have a strong start for him because, they've got that momentum now and that's going to be massive moving into, as we've sort of said many times, a bit of a cliche, but what is a busy festive period and then to the sort of business end of the season.
I've been reading some of Lee's comments this morning. He's really impressed with the sort of attitude of the squad that he's inherited at Hartlepool, which is a big thing. Toby, quick word on Hartlepool. Positive signs at the minute.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's a really sort of signs of a good run that they have the potential to get on. Obviously, there's sort of mitigating circumstances, perhaps in terms of team selections in the cup, but obviously that 3-0 win over Sheffield Wednesday in the EFL Trophy, and then beating Lincoln at the weekend, another League One side in the FA Cup. So you've seen there the sort of strength they have, and to follow that up in the league is really encouraging for them in terms of what they could do next. Obviously, they've got, again, the sort of run they've got coming up potentially opens up an opportunity for them to really maybe build some form and really move within touching distance of the playoff places. So it could be exciting times for Hartlepool. And I mean, as we're saying, you do have to credit Graham Lee for coming in and having that sort of instant impact. He'll be sort of building his confidence as well. Obviously, it's his sort of first experience as a first team manager. So there's that sort of new element for him as well. But as soon as you sort of getting them wins off the mark, you're going to become more confident. You're going to feel more settled, more like you belong there. And he's getting that already. So that's a really good start to life for him in charge at Hartlepool.
Absolutely, a great week for Hartlepool on the whole. All right, and that concludes today's midweek review. Coming up later today on Football League World TV, we've got the regional roundup, the EFL London show with George Douglas. We were just talking off air before we came live how it's an absolute bumper show. So one not to miss. So please do make sure that you tune into that. And until next time, take care.